अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। संसारदावानललीढलोकत्राणाय कारुण्यघनाघनत्वं प्राप्तस्य कल्याणगुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरोः श्रीचरणारविन्दं। साक्षाद्धरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैर् भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभोर्यः प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरोः श्रीचरणारविन्दम्। यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्याप्रसादान्न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायन् स्तुवंस्तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरोः श्रीचरणारविन्दम्। नमः सर्वेभ्यो. Welcome to this session. We have completed 25 shlokas in the 18th chapter. In the first 25 shlokas, we learnt about how sannyasa and tyaga, karma-sannyas and karma-tyag, essentially refer to the same thing. These terms may be used in different contexts in the scripture, but both of them essentially point to engaging in one's karma without attachment to the fruits, to the results of the work, without drawing motivation from what will I get by doing this work. The primary motivation should come from one's sense of responsibility, one's duty, not from what will be my personal gains from this work. So, selfishness removed, thinking of the larger picture when one does the work, then it becomes karma-sannyas as well as tyag. So, this point is made in the first 12 shlokas of the 18th chapter. Then, in the subsequent 5 shlokas, the 5 factors of action. Closely connected to the theory of karma is the understanding that the individual living being, the jivatma, is not the doer of the action. Is only one factor among 5 factors which lead to the performance of any action. The jivatma has the desire to perform the action, but what actually executes and carries out the action are other factors. So that is actually explained in the next 5 shlokas, that is 12, 13 to 17. Subsequently, from the 18th shloka onwards, different aspects connected to human existence, jnanam, knowledge, karma or work, activity, and subsequently karta, the person doing the activity, and then other factors also such as intelligence, resolve, buddhi, dhriti, and sukham. Each of these is explained in terms of the 3 gunas of prakriti, because just before this it has been explained that prakriti plays an important role in the performance of any action. So prakriti and karma are very closely connected to each other. Prakriti operates through its 3 gunas. The 3 gunas of prakriti, sattva, rajas, and tamas, are instrumental in different ways in the existence of human beings and the activities they do. So in the last shloka, in the last class, we saw how 2 things, jnana and karma, knowledge and action, these are influenced by the 3 gunas. So what is sattvika jnanam? What is rajasika jnanam? What is tamasika jnanam? Similarly, what is sattvika karma, rajasika karma, tamasika karma? We saw all this in the last class. So going forward, in today's class, we deal with 3 more of these aspects of human life. One is how the worker himself or herself, the worker themselves can be distinguished, their mentality, in terms of the 3 gunas of prakriti, and then the buddhi, intelligence with which work is done, and then resolve or dhriti, with which work is done. Resolve, or you can say steadiness, with which work is done. So these are dealt with now in the next 10 shlokas that we are going to see today. So let me begin, and then we will summarize at the end of these 10 shlokas. First, we go to shloka number 26. Here, Mukta Sango Naham Vadi Dhrityutsaha Samanvitaha Siddhya Siddhyor Nirvikaraha Karta Sattvika Uchyate. Mukta sango na hamvadi dhrityutsaha samanvitaha siddhya siddhyor nirvikaraha karta sattvika uchyate. So here the karta who is a sattvika karta, who is under the dominant influence of sattva guna, is described. So how is this description? Mukta sangaha. Mukta sangha means muktaha sangat yaha, or sangat muktaha mukta sangaha. So one who is free from the attachment to the work, which what effectively means one who does not think of themselves as the doer of that work, one who understands that there are so many factors and I am just one small element in that whole picture, one who has this clear realization and works accordingly. So if one works like that, then naturally one will not be driven by the craving for the fruits of the work, because one knows that those fruits are emerging not because of me but because of all these factors. And by the time somebody has that realization, they also have enough consciousness, even enough development of consciousness to know that nothing in this world actually belongs to them. Everything belongs to that universal whole. Things come into our possession sometimes and then they go out after some time. So during the time that something is in our possession, in our control, the way we use it determine the consequences of what we get from it. So therefore, such a person is naturally detached from the craving for the result of the action, from the result of what they do. Their motivation comes from the responsibility, sense of responsibility they have towards the higher purpose. They know that by doing their duty systematically, sincerely, without thinking or without being driven by the fruits, they will make advancement toward their own self, toward realizing pure self knowledge, and thereby experiencing the genuine happiness that lies within them. Okay, so this is Sattvic thinking, Mukta Sangaha, Anahamvadi, Ahamvadi. Who is a Ahamvadi? Ahamvadi is a person who talks about themselves as a prominent thing. Very often people talk, we see this around us, and sometimes we also do that. We project ourselves as something that we are not, right? We are the center of this world. Everything revolves around us. That's how we think. But is that true? Not at all. So, anahamvadi, person who does not project themselves as something big, as something significant, who conducts themselves appropriately, knowing what they are, in an appropriate manner, what to speak in what context. Ahamvad is not there. Ahamvad means talking about oneself in a big way, projecting oneself as something big, as something significant, bragging about oneself, boasting about oneself, right? Showing off. Or even if not showing off in a subtle way, projecting oneself as something significant, important, and so on, without the need for it, even when there is no need for such a thing. Okay, that's called ahamvada. But anahamvadi, a person does not project themselves in that manner. Such a person is sattvic. Dhrityutsaha samanvitaha. Dhriti, utsaha, two things. Endowed with. Samanvitaha means endowed with. Endowed with dhriti and utsaha. Dhriti means what? Sattvika dhriti. We're going to talk about that a little later today. So dhriti means resolve or steadiness, a steady resolve. Make up your mind to do something and then you do that thing. Regardless of the difficulties which come, you pursue it till it ends. And it's called a sattvika resolve. A person who resolves and continues with that resolve, who's very firm in the resolve, who's very solid. Okay, this is different from being obstinate about the wrong thing. Steadiness in the right thing, resolve about the right thing, and enthusiasm, doing their work. So, on the one hand, they are not thinking about the fruit of the work. Again, here, when I say not thinking about the fruit of the work, it doesn't mean that they don't have a goal in their work. Any work which has to be successfully done, which has to be accomplished properly, has to be done keeping the goal of that work in mind. For example, take a simple thing like I have to complete a project in my job, right? Or if I am a student, I have to complete a term paper, or I have to complete the preparation for an exam. So these are all targets that we need to achieve as we go about doing our activity. So being detached from the fruits of the work or being detached from the result does not mean that we don't have a focus on the goal. What it means is that the result of that work, For example, I'm preparing for an exam and I prepare for it as sincerely as I can, as I'm expected to, as my teacher expects me to. Okay, now what is the fruit? The fruit would be to get very high marks in the exam. Okay, and subsequently from those high marks comes my, the fame, the reward, the appreciation of others, etc. So those things will naturally follow if I do my work sincerely. If I prepare for the exam sincerely, then naturally I will perform well in that. And if I perform well in that, people will appreciate me. And if people appreciate me, I'll become more popular among society, among my maybe classmates or the people who know me. So these are all natural, one after the other, cascading outcomes of whatever I do sincerely. Now, the person who is doing the work, preparing for the exam, is not motivated by thinking that I'll get all those things and therefore I should prepare well. His motivation comes from thinking that it's my duty to prepare well. I'm supposed to prepare well. My teachers suppose or expect, my parents expect, the society expects me that I have become a student and I should prepare well before the exam. If I don't prepare well, then I'm not doing my duty. So such a person would feel guilty if they are not preparing well. And such a person would feel contented if they prepared well. So being detached from the result means this, that their motivation does not come from contemplating on the happiness that comes from all the appreciation, the praise, the fame, etc., which comes from the work, or in some other context, the money which comes from that work. For example, if you do a project in your company, they may give some incentives, and that means more money, more earning. So the primary motivation does not come thinking about the money and the subsequent enjoyment that money will bring, but from the thinking that now I am an employee of the company, and as such, I am expected to do my work very sincerely, very honestly, and by doing that, I will feel very content. I have done what I'm supposed to do. Okay, now it may sometimes happen that the result does not become that. Okay, normally, if we work sincerely, if we work hard, if we work the way we should work, then the positive result will naturally emerge. But it could also be that sometimes, instead of that positive result, something unforeseen happens and things go wrong. And thereby something bad happens. So such a person is not affected by that too. And that is what it means, siddhya siddhyoho nirvikaraha. When the positive result comes, such a person does not get excited and celebrate and jump up and down and go and act as if the world has become everything that they want in life has been achieved now. No, the person doesn't get carried away by that success. Similarly, if there is failure, such a person doesn't become dejected as well. Such a person in their mind knows that they are not the cause of everything that happens. So they did what they could do and they did it sincerely, and that gives them contentment. If things go wrong, of course, they are concerned. It does not mean when they say that we say they are not depressed in failure, does not mean they are not concerned about something that fails, something that goes wrong in their work. It's not like, अरे जो होना है होने दो, मैंने कर्म yoga कर दिया, अभी मेरे को I don't care what happens. No, that's not the thinking of karma yoga at all. If there is a failure, if something goes wrong in the work, they would be concerned about it, because that is not the intended outcome of work. The intended outcome of work is the successful, the positive part of it. Everybody does work for some positive result. So if something goes wrong, then this person who is detached is also concerned, just like somebody who's attached. But this person's concern is not endowed with dejection. It is endowed with a genuine concern for how can I ensure that some things can be set right. What went wrong can be now set right. Some compensation can be done. Or the next time I do this thing does not go wrong because it's not supposed to go wrong. I have a responsibility to ensure it doesn't go wrong. Right? So, keeping that thinking in mind, the person becomes concerned about the failure but does not become depressed. Like somebody who is attached to the fruit, who is being driven by the thinking of the fruit and the enjoyment, the selfish enjoyment which comes from the fruit, would become depressed if there is failure. But a person who is detached will be concerned but will not be depressed when there is failure. So there's a difference between being concerned about failure and being depressed in the failure. Okay, we should know this distinction. So this is the sattvic person. The sattvic person is free from thinking that I am the doer, has clear knowledge that there are so many factors in the activity which happen, and thereby is free from either attachment to the work itself or from attachment to the results of the work, is not driven by them. At the same time, is very responsible, and therefore is very steady and enthusiastic about the work because of the sense of responsibility, and also neither excited nor depressed, regardless of the outcome. Okay, so this is a beautiful shloka. Mukta sangon hamvadi dhrityutsaha samanvitaha siddhya siddhyor nirvikaraha karta sattvika uchyate. Now the Rajasa karta. Ragi karmaphala prepsur lubdho himsatmako shuchihi harsha shokanvita karta rajasah parikirtitaha. Beautiful. You see the contrast between sattvika karta and rajasika karta. So ragi, the opposite. That person was not attached. This person is very much attached. Ragi means both attached to the fruits of the work and who craves for all the possessions, all the material selfish enjoyment that will come to that person because of doing that work. Who is greedy? So first is Ragi, karma phala prepsuhu. So Ragi, deeply attached to the things around them, only works with deep attachment both for the possessions that they have and for the outcomes of the work. Lubdaha, very greedy for those positive outcomes that can come from that work. And because of that greed, that person will always try to maximize the selfish component of that work. What do I get? How can I maximize what I get? At the same time, while minimizing what I give to others. That's the meaning of lubdaha, greed. So, how should I maximize my returns while minimizing whatever can go to another person because of my work? This is called lubdha, lalichi, lalach. Okay, himsatmakaha. Himsatmakaha means one who is not concerned about harming others. In the course of their work, they may trouble others. Okay, it may cause, for example, some externality. That's called in economics externality. Some effect on the other person, people around us, people living in the next door. Okay, for example, I may start a business in my house, and by starting the business, I'm putting up some machines in my house, and because of those machines, I'm putting up some exhaust fans coming out of my house, and all the exhaust blows into the next house. The next house owner comes and asks us and tells us this is going on. But I've already thought of that. So because I'm greedy, I'm thinking, I tell him, so what? I can't help it. I can't do my business without this. So I'm not able to help it. You take some protection. You put a AC in your house and protect yourself from doing this. I'm only blowing into the environment. I'm not blowing into your house. That person says, no, sir, you're blowing into the environment, but the environment is just next to my house. And therefore, whatever you're blowing into is blowing into my house also. No, no, it's not my responsibility. That's your responsibility. It's your headache. I'm doing work in my compound. I'm not doing work in your compound. You take care of yourself. Okay, so this kind of thing. I don't care. So who harms or troubles others in their work and life is insensitive to what their work does to other people. So we see so many examples of this, and we ourselves sometimes are a victim of this. And quite possibly, sometimes we also have done this to others. Right? If we have done that in the past, at least in the future, we should not do. Okay, who disregards the norms of cleanliness. Ashuchihi. Ashuchihi means one who's not bothered about cleanliness. Okay, in the Shastra, a lot of norms, for example, even simple norms like we as Indians, we are trained in this, right? Outside India, this may not be there, but in India, at least, all Indian parents train their children wash your hands before you eat. Because a lot of our food is eaten with the hand itself, except maybe some things like ice cream or something. But a lot of things we eat, like chapati, dal, normally at least, we don't eat chapati with a spoon, right? Anybody eats chapati with spoon and fork? There might be some people, but they will be very few in number. Most of us, especially things like naan or something, you can't eat it with a spoon. Fingers are the best things to eat: chapati, naan, roti, etc. Right? And many of us eat rice also, which can be eaten with a spoon. We eat it with our fingers because we know it's more enjoyable to eat with our fingers. So in India, it's a norm to wash our hands very clean. Another norm is to eat with the right hand, right? The right hand is meant for activities like eating food, or when you do puja, for the deity, you do it with the right hand. The left hand has other activities, right? When we wash ourselves, so we use the left hand. So somebody who disregards this, I don't care. How does it matter? The food has to go inside the stomach. Why should I wash my hand? I'm eating with a spoon anyway. Oh, I can eat chapati also with the spoon. I'll show you. I can eat with a spork. I can eat with the chopsticks also, like Chinese. So, person who disregards, who doesn't care about all these things. Okay. Similarly, there are many other norms of cleanliness. I just gave you a simple example of washing the hand, but there are so many other norms of cleanliness, like keeping the house clean, keeping the mind clean, keeping the body clean, keeping so many other objects and articles in the clean, chanting certain mantras before doing certain activities. So these are all different norms of cleanliness or shuchitvam, and a person who disregards all those things, okay, because he doesn't see any profit in doing that. It's only a cost. Washing your hand takes some time. There's a cost involved in it. So anything that costs me decreases my returns, so I won't do it. Harsha shokanvitaha. Okay, there we said a person who is sattvic is not disturbed in success or failure. Disturbed means he doesn't become excited. That's also a disturbance, right? Getting excited in success is one form of disturbance. Getting depressed in failure is another type of disturbance. So a person who is sattvic is not disturbed either by success or by failure. But here, the rajasic person, because they are running after that fruit, they are greedy. Their greed is driving them. Therefore, naturally, when they get success, when what they want happens, they're very happy, get excited, super excited. Okay, they may lose their mind. Similarly, when they get failure, when they fail, when failure comes, naturally, what they wanted, all the hard work they did, excessive hard work they did, led to nothing. In fact, it might have led to a loss in the business, a loss in the work, all the time, money, so much has been lost, leads to depression. Sometimes such people go into enormous depression, right? They have to be medically treated after that. So we have seen people like that. I have personally met people like that and tried to counsel them if I to the extent I could. But sometimes you cannot counsel also. You need expert medical help. You need a psychiatrist's help. You need a psychiatrist to prescribe medicines for such persons to bring them out of that dejection. Okay. Just because we are on the topic, one of the common things that happens, we see around us, especially in an academic institute or university, is when breakups happen, when two people are having a romantic relationship and one of them decides to, let's say, leave the other person or break the relationship, the other person may undergo this kind of dejection because they went into that romantic relationship with the hope that they would get that person's, into their life with that greed in them. Right? It's actually a form of greed. We think it is love, but actually it's a form of greed. So when that doesn't materialize, it leads to dejection. So this is Rajasika Karta. The Karta who is like this is a Rajasika Karta. Ragi Karmaphala Prepsuhu Lubdho Himsatmako Shuchihi Harsha Shokanvita Karta Rajasaf Parikirtitaha. And now the tamasa karta. Okay, tamasa karta always a little bit humorous. Whenever the tamasic quality is described in all the different aspects of human life, you can see a sense of humor also is there in it. Ayukta prakrita stabdaha shato naishkritiko lasaha vishadi dirgha sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. So the worker who is ayuktaha means one who does things which are inappropriate, does things which should not be done. For example, as a student, you know that when you submit a term paper, you should not plagiarize, you should not copy. You're supposed to write originally, but you plagiarize because you are a tamasika karta. Not you, I mean, whoever is a tamasika karta does this. The tamasika karta thinks that because he is tamasic, his intelligence tells him that who will do all the work here? So much time it's going to take. Instead, it's all easily available on the internet. So I'll cleverly combine material from here and there and put in a few words in between myself and then prepare the term paper and submit it. चल जाएगा. देखते हैं कौन पकड़ेगा. कोई भी नहीं पकड़ेगा. चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया भी नहीं पकड़ेगा मेरे को. So this kind of language we hear, right? So it's called ayuktaha, who acts inappropriately. Prakritaha literally means in this context one who is primitive. Prakritaha. It comes from the word prakriti or prakritam. That is that which exists naturally. Okay. So we come into this life. When we come into any life at any point of time, we have with us something called swabhava. We discussed earlier too when we talked about the 17th chapter. What is swabhava? Praktana samskara visheshaha swabhavaha iti uchyate. The accumulation of the past samskaras leads to a particular nature in us. Those samskaras, the collective accumulation, the collective samskaras together becomes our swabhava. Swabhava is the nature, the tendencies, the orientation, all the vasanas that's reflected in our swabhava. So a person who just acts according to their swabhava and not according to Shastra. If someone follows the Shastra meticulously, in many of the things which Shastra says, it makes us go beyond our swabhava. It makes us come out of the swabhava. It makes us do things which our swabhava by itself does not like to do. Simple thing. Shastra says get up at Brahma Muhurta, let's say 4:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning or at least 5 in the morning. Get up at Brahma Muhurta and take a bath. Become clean and then do meditation. Shastra says this. But our Swabhava doesn't allow that. According to our Swabhava, we want to sleep till about 8 o'clock. Because 8:30 we have to leave for the office. So half an hour is enough to get ready. 8 o'clock the alarm rings, I'll quickly get out of bed. Until 8 o'clock, I simply will not twitch. I will not move even a small hair on my body. So, this kind of thinking is the disregard for Shastra, completely disregard. Acting as per our own nature. Prakritaha, primitive. This is a literal translation of Prakritaha means primitive thinking, means not evolved thinking. A person who is little more evolved will think, okay, I should do the right thing, not what I like, not what is most likable, but what is the correct thing to do. That's what I should do. Okay, this kind of thinking is Shastrika thinking. But a Prakrita thinking means I'll do whatever my nature tells me to do. Similarly, if I feel like stealing something, I see something lying unattended, it looks good. I may not even know what it is and how I can use it, but let me steal it first. Before the fellow can see it, let me flick it. After flicking it, I'll go somewhere else and see whether it's useful to me or not. Otherwise, I'll throw it away. So, this kind of thinking, acting as per our own nature and not as per the Shastra. Shastra says, don't steal, disregarding that. Stabdaha means obstinate, not willing to change. Somebody might tell us, don't do this, this is wrong. But no, I don't care. I have decided to do it, I will do it, regardless of what you think. Right? This is called stabdaha. Shataha means wicked or duplicitous. Both meanings. Somebody who is cruel to others, I don't care. You step on their feet, you cut their throat, it's okay. Duplicitous, I'll say something, I'll mean something else, and I'll do something else. Okay, what I say doesn't match with what I mean and doesn't match with what I actually do. Duplicitous, shataha. Naishkritikaha means nishkritihi, one who does nishkriti, one who does things which are offensive to others or insulting to others, insensitively. I don't care. Okay, so such people you will see sometimes in society, they have two sides to them. They are in two extremes. One is towards people who are superior to them. Let's say in the company there is a boss. He may not even be the highest boss in the company, maybe just the immediate boss in a company with a lot of hierarchy. The immediate boss, the one to whom you are reporting. So this person will be very, very submissive, like a dog in front of that person. Whatever that person says, this person will nod their head, speak very softly, bow down when they speak. Now, when that same person speaks to the person who is just one level below them, okay, in the same hierarchy, that person reports to this person. To such a person, this fellow will speak in the most rude and insulting manner. He'll be like the complete authority. The other person will be trembling in front of him, make the other person tremble, insult him, offend him, completely misuse that person. Okay, on the one hand, towards the boss, be like a small dog, helpless dog. To the other person, be like a lion, a wicked lion. Completely shake that person up. So we see people like this too. Okay, this is called tamasika karta. A person who is insulting and offending, and at the same time very, what do you call, helpless and weak in front of some other people. They have only these two extremes. There's nothing in between. They don't have an in between state of existence. Okay, this is tamasika karta. Vishadi. Okay, where are we now? Alasaha. Naishkritikaha alasaha. Alasaha means a lazy person. A person who doesn't want to do work. A person tries to avoid work as much as possible. Okay, give some reason. So person goes to office or goes to their work only because there is a rule which says that if you don't come, you will be marked absent, and then you have to give an explanation. So to prevent that, the person drags themselves to the work. But once they go to work, they just sit there or move around drinking tea, doing whatever they can except work, gossiping, talking about politics, lazy, and neglects their duties. Vishadi means who is dejected. Such a person naturally will be dejected because they don't have a purpose in life. There's no clarity in life. Dirgha Sutricha, who procrastinate. Dirgha Sutram. Dirgham means long. Dirgha Sutri, person who takes the work for indefinite time. Takes much longer than necessary to do something small. Something that can be done in one day will take 3 months to do it. Right? Dirgha Sutricha. तादृशः कर्ता तामसः इति उच्यते. अयुक्तः प्राकृतः. अयुक्तः प्राकृतस्तब्धः. शतो नैष्कृतिकोल्लसः. विषादी दीर्घसूत्री च कर्ता तामस उच्यते. So three types of karta have been described. Now Sri Bhagavan says, I will now give you two more factors, buddhi and dhriti. Buddhi and dhriti, and these factors also, which are important aspects of human life, I will distinguish in terms of the three gunas. Buddhir bhedam dhriteschaiva gunatastrividham shruno prochyamanam asheshena pratatvena dhananjaya. So now, O Dhananjaya, please listen to me as I describe to you the distinctions between intelligence, buddhi, and resolve, dhriti, in terms of the three gunas that separately and comprehensively. Pratatvena means separately for buddhi and separately for dhriti, and comprehensively, asheshena. I'll describe to you thoroughly. Buddhi first, sattvika buddhi. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya bhaya bhaye bandham moksham cha ya vetti buddhi sa partha sattviki. He says buddhi sa partha sattviki. Sa buddhi sattviki ya pravrittim cha nivrittim cha vetti. Pravritti means, pravritti literally means involvement in something or engagement with something. That's called pravritti in that thing. Okay, so if I say that I am deeply involved with a particular project, that means I'm having pravritti in that project. Similarly, if I'm not involved in something, if I'm not involved in something else, if I'm not involved in, let's say, cricket, then I have nivritti from cricket. Means I don't take any part in it or I don't watch cricket, I don't have any interest in it. So nivritti. So here it says, pravrittim cha nivrittim cha yavetti. So a person who knows where to get involved, what kind of things to get involved, and where to not be involved. He is able to discriminate. That person is able to clearly discriminate where to have pravritti and where to not have pravritti, where to have nivritti, what to engaged with, what is relevant to me, what I ought to be involved with, what I ought not to be involved with. Similarly, karya akarye, what ought to be done. So at the higher level, pravritti nivritti, but at the more micro level, exactly what to do and what not to do. Karya akarya. Karya means that which ought to be done. Akarya means that which ought not to be done. So in both matters that ought to be done and matters which ought not to be done. Similarly, bhaya bhaye, in matters which ought to be feared. Okay. For example, breaking the law. If anything breaks the law, then a person who is having this intelligence should fear that. No, no, no. I won't do it because it will break the law. It will break the rule. I fear the con. He's able to think that Today I break the law, nobody will see this, nobody will know it. But in the long run, something will come out. And that may lead to very undesirable consequences, at least for me. If not for me, for somebody else. Such a person doesn't want to harm the other person also. Not only that they are afraid they will get caught, but an action I do today, nothing may happen to me. Nobody may even know that I did it, but somebody else may get affected. It may set the house on fire, or it may damage somebody's property. They may not catch me, but I don't want my action to be a cause of damage to somebody's property. So, this thinking, karya, akarya, bhaya, abhaya, fear that something I do will cause some harm to someone, and abhaya, knowing that I don't have to be afraid if I'm doing the right thing. If I'm following dharma, if I'm living as per dharma, then I know that regardless of what happens, I am safe. Maybe in the short term, some negative effects may come, right? For example, I may end up becoming unpopular among the people who expect me to do something adharmic. Okay, the people surrounding me, they expect me to do something adharmic and give some concessions to them. I don't do it because I know it is wrong to do it. I will not do that. So they will not like me. Maybe they will do something which may harm me in some way, or they may not favor me like they were favoring me before. They may stay away from me, they may stop talking to me, or they may go and tell about me negatively to other people behind my back. All these are possible consequences of doing the right thing. But no fear. I'm not afraid of that because my conscience tells me, my conscience gives me the strength that I have done the right thing, and therefore I will do it. It's okay if they talk behind my back. If it's okay, as long as I have done the right thing and the authority in whom I trust has acknowledged that I have done the right thing, I'm perfectly fine. Similarly, bandham moksham cha yaveti. This person knows that what will lead to bondage. Certain kinds of attachments will lead to bondage. Certain other attachments will lead to liberation. For example, being attached to a sadhu who is on the path of liberation. Being attached to a sadhu is very sattvic. Actually, is also path is also what you call favorable to one's own liberation. So such kind of attachment leads to moksha. Whereas being attached to a person who is addicted to sense enjoyment, such an attachment will lead to more bandha, more degradation. So bandham moksham cha yaveti. So the intelligence which knows, the intelligence which has the discrimination between pravritti and nivritti, karya and akarya, bhaya and abhaya, bandham and moksham. Such an intelligence is sattviki. This is called sattviki buddhi. Next. Yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha karyameva cha ayathavat pradhanati ayatavat ayathavat prajanati buddhi sa partha rajasi. So what is rajasi buddhi? You can see the contrast now. Okay, between satvikam and rajasam, everywhere you'll see this. The moment you describe and understand satvikam, you'll see that the opposite comes when we talk about rajasam. So yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha karyameva cha ayathavat prajanati buddhissa partha rajasi. So this buddhi does not know. Ayathavat prajanati. Ayathavat means yathavat. Is opposite of yathavat is ayathavat. Yathavat means as it is, as it should be, as it is. Ayathavat means not as it is. So the Rajasi Buddhi does not know as it is the distinction between dharma and adharma. It's not able to clearly discriminate. Maybe sometimes it knows, but sometimes it's not able to discriminate. Karyam cha akaryam, that which ought to be done, that which ought not to be done. It's not able to discriminate. So such a buddhi, and by extension, all the other things which were told there, between pravritti and nivritti, right? Between bhaya and abhaya, between bandham and moksham. He does not know the difference. Okay, all that is not mentioned in this shloka, but it's understood as an extension of the previous shloka. This person who has Rajasi Buddhi does not know the difference and ends up committing mistakes. And that is why such a person is naturally driven by greed, or you can say because the person is driven by greed, their greed and lust and anger and so on overcome their intelligence and make them lose their discrimination between the opposites. Yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha karyameva cha ayathavat prajanati buddhissa partha rajasi adharmam dharmamiti adharmam dharmamiti ya manyate tamasavrata manyate tamasavrata adharmam dharmamiti ya manyate tamasavrata sarvarthan viparitanschya buddhissa partha tamasi. So now the third one, it's not the opposite of rajas or the opposite of sattva. It stands out by itself. Tamas always stands out by itself. You can see it drastically different from both rajas and sattva. It says it considers what is adharma to be dharma. Whatever a dharmic person considers to be the wrong thing to do, this person, tamasic person, considers that to be the right thing to do. For example, stealing others' property is the way to be, is the right thing to do. Telling lies to other people is the smart way to live life, right? Fooling other people and getting my work done is the way to do things, is the best way to do things. That is what the tamasic person thinks. Adharmam dharmamiti yamanyate. Tamasavrita. Why does the person think like that? Because their buddhi is covered by tamas. Tamasa avrita. Tamasa avrita means because of being covered by tamas, such a person's buddhi thinks like that, or such a person thinks like that with a buddhi that is covered by tamas. And it's not only about adharma and with the dharma, it's sarvarthan viparitamscha, everywhere. Every aspect of life, that person does the opposite of what ought to be done. Sarvarthan viparitamscha. Understand everything in a manner opposite to how it should be understood. Right? Sometimes, as the person in charge of the PhD program here, I sometimes see students also, PhD students. How much ever you explain to them that this is the way you should approach your PhD, they will do just the opposite. They won't do that. They won't do what they ought to do. Instead, they will do exactly the opposite of what they ought to do. Okay, and then get into trouble. The PhD doesn't move forward, or if it moves forward, they will ride on somebody else's back and make it happen. Right? By themselves, they cannot do. Sarvarthan viparitamscha. Sa buddhi tamasi buddhi. So this is about buddhi, sattviki, rajasi, tamasi. And the next one that we will see is about the resolve, which is closely connected to buddhi. Because from buddhi comes the resolve to do some things, right? So buddhi shapes our dhriti. Dhritya yaya dharayate manah pranendriya kriyaha yogena vyabhicharinya dhritis sa partha sattviki dhritya yaya dharayate manah pranendriya kriyaha yogena vyabhicharinya dhritis sa partha sattviki. So that dhriti by which one dharayate, yaya dhritya dharayate, that dhriti through which one can sustain or one is able to sustain manah pranendriya kriyaha yogena avyabhicharinya dhriti. That dhriti is avyabhicharini. Tadrisha dhritya manah pranendriya kriyaha dharayate. The activities of the mind, manaha, prana means the vital energies in the body. Okay, we have discussed that before. Prana exists all over this material universe, but it flows in the bodies of all the living beings, in the material body, in the stula shariram. The prana flows, it's a part of the sukshma shariram. But when the stula shariram is present, then the prana helps in the functioning of all the different organs and the systems in the stula shariram. So those vital energies which are responsible for keeping the body healthy, so mind, then the pranas, and indriya, all the senses, the jnanendriyam, the karmendriyam, all of them put together, the activities of all of them, the activities of the mind, the activities of prana, activities of the senses, these activities, yogena dharayate, through connecting with the Supreme. How is this person able to put them in a proper place? He is able to sustain them in a proper manner through yoga. Yogena dharayate. Yogena dharayate. Yoga means what? Connection with the Supreme Being. So through that connection with the Supreme Being, such a person sustains the activities of the mind, the senses, and the pranas, the vital energies, in a proper manner. Such a person sustains them. Okay, steadily. They are steady. So they don't, that is why they don't go into either too much excitement, the mind doesn't get too excited, or too depressed. It's always steady. It's in one state of mind. State of mind, always joyous, always happy, always feeling content, always feeling um, in control, always in control, never, lost, never feeling lost. Or even if sometimes the feeling of being lost comes, that person is able to quickly pull themselves back by reminding themselves of the larger picture. Their connection with the Supreme helps them to do that, quickly brings them back. Okay, so this kind of dhriti, this kind of a resolve is called sattviki dhriti. यया तु धर्मकामार्थान् धृत्या धारयतेऽर्जुन प्रसङ्गेन फलाकाङ्क्षी धृतिः सा पार्थराजसी यया तु धर्मकामार्थान् धृत्या धारयतेऽर्जुन प्रसङ्गेन फलाकाङ्क्षी धृतिः सा पार्थराजसी. So the contrast with sattviki is rajasi. So here he says, by that dhriti, the dhriti by which dharma kamarthan dharayate. So dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. These are said to be the four purusharthas. The panchama purushartha is prema, that is not covered in the samanya Vedic literature. Prema is hidden there. Prema is brought out in Bhagavata. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha, of these, the first three, dharma, artha, kama, are considered samanya dharma, means they are part of the normal material life, material existence. Moksha, the goal of moksha, takes one out of material existence, whereas the thinking of dharma, artha, kama keeps them in material existence. So this resolve, rajasi dhritihi, is about the resolve to expand oneself materially through dharma, through artha, and through kama. So this dhriti, rajasi dhriti, is always thinking in terms of how do I sustain my material existence and how do I expand it? How do I become more capable of enjoying? How do I get access to things which will give me more enjoyment? How do I expand my enjoyment by expanding my material existence? This is all that exists. The material existence is all that exists. Such a person is not aware of their own spiritual existence. Okay, so yayato dharma kamarthan dhritya dharayate Arjuna. And how is it favored? It's favored by prasangena, by the company of a like-minded person. Prasanga. Prasanga means somebody's association, associating with other people who encourage us to do that, who will reward us for doing that, who will recognize us, who will give us rewards for doing that. Okay, society, today's society is like that. It rewards a person who is materialistically successful. So somebody who has become a karodpati will become famous as a karodpati. Somebody who's become a unicorn, who's got a unicorn company. Somebody who's worth more than 1,000 crores. Okay, of course, there are people who are worth tens of millions of crores. Okay, that's also there. So that is very rewarding in this world. So prasangena phalakankshi. So because of all that, the akanksha, the desire for the fruit, the greed for the fruit, becomes stronger and stronger. So such a person with a resolve like that has a rajasi dhriti. Such a dhriti is called rajasi. And finally, tamasi dhriti. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madameva cha na vimunchati dhurmedaha dhriti sa partha tamasi. So by this dhriti, the tamasi dhriti, swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madameva cha. Swapnam literally means dreaming or the state in which we dream, the sleepy state, being in sleep. Swapnam bhayam, sleeping, bhayam, fear of existence, shokam, lamentation. Okay, or let's say In more colloquial terms, we say ranting. Okay, lamentation means sitting and crying, but how does it come out? It comes out in the form of ranting, complaining. Always, this is not okay, that is not okay. Can't have a conversation with that person who's like this. We sometimes see people like this. You try to converse. Hey, hi, how are you? Good morning. Are you doing well? Uh, oh, okay, I'm okay. And after saying I'm okay, that person starts ranting about all the problems. This happened, that happened. What can I say? The director has now brought a new rule. This institute is finished. Okay, I'm talking about what happens in XLRI. Sometimes this doesn't happen all the time. There's some people who talk like this. Of course, a lot of people who are very cheerful in XLRI, no doubt about that. So people who are always complaining, ranting. Okay, Vishadam means they are dejected in their life. Their resolve is such that they are not able to make a resolve which takes them out of that. Always dejected, or sometimes they resolve to be dejected. If they are not dejected, they won't be happy. They are happy being dejected. They feel comfortable in that state of being dejected. Na vimunchati. See, na vimunchati means does not let go. It does not let go. Somebody may try to counsel them. Please come out of it. Come out of that thinking. There are other ways of living. Don't live like this. Don't exist in this state. But no, they can't give it up because they can't think of an existence other than that. That existence seems to be the only stable existence because they have got stabilized there. That stability which has come to them, they've got used to that thinking. They are not able to come out of it. Okay, swapnam, bhayam, shokam, vishadam, madam. Madam means a state of intoxication. Intoxication doesn't mean that they are always drunk in alcohol. That could also be sometimes. But even when they are not drunk with something like alcohol or some ganja or something, even then they're intoxicated, means their behavior is full of ambiguity. They utter something, they speak something arbitrarily, they say make statements which are not well thought out, intoxicated, behaving in a arbitrary, random, sometimes offensive manner. We saw that in the when we discussed about buddhi and karta, behaving offensively, sometimes behaving sweetly, very random. Madam. Madam means person who behaves randomly, unpredictably. Okay, such a behavior. Na vimunchati. They are not able to give up even when somebody counsels them. Somebody tells them that, if you live like this, you will become more miserable. This will only harm you and harm others too, and you will not succeed in life. But no, this is how they are. Okay. So if you see the people who actually succeed, they won't be like this. They may be rajasic in life. Rajas gives material success, but tamasic people will not succeed. They will neither get moksha nor will they get material success. They will not get anything. Durmedaha, they are addressed as Durmeda, means unintelligence, people with weak intelligence. Their intelligence is very dull. Okay? So such a resolve, people with such resolve, they have tamasi dhriti. Okay? So with this, we come to the end of today's shlokas. In today's shlokas, we saw three aspects of human life in terms of the three gunas of Prakriti. First, we saw the karta, sattvika karta, rajasa karta, tamasa karta. Then we saw buddhi, sattviki buddhi, rajasi buddhi, tamasi buddhi. And now we finally saw dhriti, sattviki dhriti, rajasi dhriti, and tamasi dhriti. So we continue in the next class with the last human aspect that is also analyzed in terms of um, the three gunas of Prakriti. That is sukham or happiness, and that's very, very interesting. So I will left that for the next class. We will discuss that in great detail. Three types of sukha, three types of happiness. But today, I want to just conclude by saying that this discussion about Prakriti is quite elaborate in Bhagavad Gita. Prakriti is the current state of existence. We are all in contact with Prakriti. We are under the influence of Prakriti. And therefore, if we have to get out of Prakriti's hands, we should first understand Prakriti. And understanding Prakriti means understanding the three gunas of Prakriti, sattva, rajas, tamas. And to understand those three gunas, we should understand how they influence us in terms of all the different aspects of our life. And in Bhagavad Gita, multiple aspects have been touched upon. We began with, in the 17th chapter, food, ahara. Ahara trividam. Sattvika aharam, sattvika ahara, rajasika ahara, tamasika ahara. Then we saw about yajna, worship, tapasya, austerity, dana, charity. And then in the 17th chapter, we saw tyaga, sacrifice, right? Or giving up. Tyaga means giving up. And then we saw jnanam, knowledge, karma, activities, actions. Then karta, buddhi, and dhriti, worker, intelligence, and resolve. Okay, so many aspects we have seen, and next we're going to see sukham also. So by all these things and contemplating on them, we understand how prakriti acts upon us, and we also understand that we ought to be under the influence of sattva guna. Between the three gunas, we ought to reject rajoguna, tamoguna, and come to sattva guna, become sattvic. That is the intention of saying all this, not to just identify and label ourselves or label others, but to learn how to become sattvic. By learning all this, we should be able to figure out the way to become sattvic. And thereafter, towards the end of the 18th chapter, Sri Bhagavan will talk about bhakti. There we will see how bhakti is beyond sattva guna also. Bhakti is nirguna. When we come to bhakti, we learn how to become nirguna, become free from even sattva guna. But right now, we're talking about coming to sattva guna, becoming free from rajoguna and tamoguna. With these words, I will stop today's class, and I will now eagerly wait to hear your comments. Uh, I didn't unmute anyone today, so you can straight away start speaking if you have anything to ask or anything to say. You can see the participants today. Thank you for joining in. Anyone? We can write a whole essay on this once we complete the discussion of prakriti. I think in the next class we will complete discussion on the three gunas of prakriti. After that, it goes into swabhav and how karma should be done in accordance with swabhav. That's also a beautiful theory. So everything comes under theory of karma. You see, theory of karma and understanding of prakriti are closely connected to each other. So we can write a series of essays on all of these. Understanding them properly, we can develop a whole literature in terms of essays on Bhagavad-Gita and how that can inform each of us in our lives. Okay, I would encourage you to do that on your own, and I'm also thinking of doing it myself. Yes, Jayashree, you have something to ask or to say?
Can you go back to that slide of karta, the rajasa karta?
Here, this one?
Yes. This is the one. Yes, I just wanted to add here that here ashuchi, in fact, all the words here refer to the mind of the karta. So, ragi, one whose mind is in raga, attachment. Karma phala prepsuhu, one who desires karma phala. So, like that. So, ashuchihi, because you said it is about cleanliness, I felt that it's about the mind, where the mind is corrupted. In the sense, it's not clean. Whenever we have thoughts related to material desires, it is often said that the mind is not clean. So in that sense, I felt that the ashuchi word should be can be understood.
Okay. Yeah. Shauchaha includes both Bahya Shauchaha and Antar Shauchaha. Bahya Shaucha refers to the bodily cleanliness, Antar Shaucha is mental cleanliness. And yes, because the other things here are also referring to the mental aspects of the mind. things which happen in the mind. Therefore, shuchihi, ashuchihi also refers to mental cleanliness. It includes mental cleanliness.
Yeah, in fact, everywhere it is about the mind only, I think, about sattvika. Whenever Bhagwan talks about the karta, it is about the mind. Because
Yes.
he
Mentality, the mentality.
yes,
The
mind,
mentality.
mentality, right.
Mentality, yes.
Because
Yes, yes. So, for both antashaucha and bahishaucha, in the mind the person rejects it. Ashuchihi means the person is mentally indisposed towards following cleanliness in bahya shaucha also, bodily cleanliness also. Because unless the mind agrees to it, the body will not do it, isn't it?
yes, true.
Some red lines have come on the slides. Can you check who's? I think anyone can identify. Swapnil, is it coming from your system by any chance? The red line.
Not from my system, sir.
Okay. Good. Good. Shall we have some more questions? Anyone?
Sir, I hope I'm audible.
Rakshit.
Yes, sir.
Is it Rakshit? Oh, Rakshit. Good. Yeah, please.
So, one thing I just wanted to call out and just understand is materialism when we speak about, maybe sometimes loosely also, but it is not only that we're concerned with materialism as a means to achieve an end, but materialism as the end, that's when it becomes rajasic or tamasic. The means is irrelevant. So, if you're using materialistic means to achieve a non-materialistic end, then it would still be, let's say, it could be sattvic also.
Of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, if the end is elevation of oneself, one's true self, spiritual self, connecting with our inner self, if that is the goal, if that's the end, then any means that you create or any means that you adopt to go towards that end, of course, can be sattvika. You may use material means for that. For example, a simple thing like keeping your house clean, or or let's say finding a house which is peaceful, for which you may have to spend some money. You may have to do something which will cause you to accumulate some money and create a house like that. But you're doing it for a purpose. You're driven by the purpose of being able to take yourself closer to your own self. It's not for your sensual enjoyment you're doing that. So, definitely, means which involve matter, which engage with material energy. Okay, so therefore, here it's not materialistic in the sense of sensual enjoyment, it's materialistic in the sense of just engagement with matter. We're engaging with matter in the right way towards a higher purpose. Definitely.
In day-to-day life, how will one, let's say, realize that, let's say maybe I believe that I am doing something to achieve a, let's say, a more sattvic end, but I'm using materialistic means. At what point do I realize that maybe I am also getting some sensual pleasure out of it? Because inevitably it's very difficult to segregate them in the mind or while your subconscious mind is dealing with it.
Okay. Okay. It's not about the experience of sensual pleasure that is rejected, actually. It is the craving for sensual pleasure. It is sensual pleasure being the motivation for our activities, our goals. That is what is rejected, not the experience itself, in the sense.
I see.
Yeah. So even the person whose goal is to be more and more sattvic, and even to go beyond sattva guna, who wants to really connect with themselves and realize Bhagwan, does not reject sensual pleasure itself. I've also mentioned this earlier that, for example, Let's say a person who's a true yogi, okay, in the course of eating the food, okay, when they eat food, let's say they're eating prasadam offered to Bhagwan, which is part of the spiritual process. Now, prasadam offered to Bhagwan is always very tasty, right? You will never have prasadam, or rarely you will get prasadam which you may feel is not so tasty. But generally, when you get prasadam, it's so nice. Everybody likes it, right? People crave for it. Let's say you get some Tirupati laddu, okay, freshly made Tirupati laddu is brought to your house by somebody. Recently, somebody gave us. So that example came to mind. Now, obviously, when you put that on your tongue, just because of your spiritual advancement, the ability of your tongue to experience that good taste has not gone away. In fact, because your mind is now even more clear, you may actually experience an even better taste than you experienced earlier when your mind was not so clear. So that is not rejected. The person does not feel guilty that now I ate something tasty. Or the person does not feel that my spiritual progress is gone because I now enjoyed some nice taste. No, that nice taste came, he acknowledges that and feels happy about that too. Right? Similarly, he hears some good music or sees some beautiful object, right? Then he doesn't feel guilty. Oh, I should close my eyes. Now, beautiful object is coming, so sensual pleasure is coming, so I'll close my eyes, blindfold myself. No, that kind of thinking is completely wrong. So, the experience of sensual enjoyment by itself is not rejected. Instead, the experience when it comes by itself is accepted and experienced as it is with happiness. But the pursuit of sensual enjoyment is rejected. That person does not pursue sensual enjoyment. The person's motivation to do activities, the person's life is not guided by the pursuit of enjoyment. Can you see the difference between the two?
Yeah, sense.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Prof.
yeah. In the same way, we say, you see, the next level of this. So here I'm talking about the difference between the pursuit of enjoyment and the experience of enjoyment, and saying one of them is rejected, the other one is not rejected but acknowledged when it comes. In the same way, in the Bhakti Shastra, which I'm going to talk about more a little later in the future, we talk about Shuddha Bhakti. Shuddha Bhakti is Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Jnana Karmadhyanavritam um, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. In Shuddha Bhakti, we say the person rejects the desire for mukti. Shuddha Bhakti is not driven by the desire for mukti. Normally, for many others, I'm saying, bhakti is seen to be a means for mukti. Bhakti is a vehicle for mukti. People perform bhakti because the Shastra says in different places that by performing bhakti, one gets mukti. Mukti is an outcome of bhakti. That's acknowledged everywhere in the Shastra, including Bhagavad-gita. So people perform bhakti, bhajan to Bhagwan and do service to Bhagwan, do things which is pleasing to Bhagwan, because they think or they feel and they are motivated by the thought that by doing this, I will one day get mukti. By pleasing Bhagwan today, tomorrow I'll get mukti. So mukti, the thought of mukti becomes the motivator for bhakti. But in Shuddha Bhakti, this thought or this motivation for bhakti is rejected. So here also we point out that what we are rejecting here is not mukti itself. It is that craving for mukti. It is mukti as the goal that is rejected. The goal is bhakti, and bhakti is done with the mentality that this is pleasing to Bhagwan, not with the mentality that by doing bhakti I will get mukti. And if mukti comes in the process of doing bhakti, because mukti is an outcome of bhakti, so if mukti comes by itself, then that's not rejected. It's fine because mukti, when it comes, it's also favorable. If a person is mukt, then he can do the activities of bhakti even better because he is free from all kinds of anxiety and so on. So therefore, if mukti comes by itself, well and good, I will accept it. But I will not run behind it as if that is my goal in life. I will run behind bhakti. So this is the distinction. So just like today we made the distinction between these two things, the distinction between mukti and the desire for mukti, that also is made. So I'll come back to it again when we talk about bhakti a little later. A little later. So these are very fine distinctions that should be kept in mind. Okay, I'll take the next question. Next question, anyone? We are now at 7:40. If there are no further questions, we can close early today. Shall we close? Anyone? I'll go to the last slide. In the meantime, if anybody has questions, please let me know. Okay. So we'll conclude today's class. Please chant the Antyamangalam, the Hare Krishna mantra with me. I'll also talk more about the importance of chanting the names of Bhagavan and Hare Krishna mantra again as we go forward. Let me go forward to this slide. Yes. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samastas Sukhino Bhavantu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhanyavadaha. Thank you for joining today. Please join us again next Sunday. Thank you.